Okay, I wanted to show y'all what I've got going on here. I got all of these cucumbers, and what I'm doing is I'm washing these cucumbers with a brush underneath the cold water, and then I'm putting them in my little red bowl here, and then I'm going to trim them up, and I'm going to cut off parts like that, because that's a bad spot, and I don't want that in my pickles. Now, I'm debating making another batch of dill pickles or going with this here recipe for cucumber chips. And I think I'm probably going to go with dill pickles because this calls for 20 cups. And I don't have 20 cups, okay? And, it's talking about doing the water bath on the cucumbers and cooking them and soaking the cucumbers for 3 hours, and it's a mess. Okay, so I just wanted you to let you know this. I do have several of these books, so a lot of these books have various. Here's my, as you can see, I got my little Canon books here. A lot of these books have different recipes. Okay, you've got the Better Homes and Garden. You've got the just complete guide to home canning. You've got the all new ball canning and preserving. Putting food back, American Century, preserving summer bounty, complete guide. Okay, so I got them all. All right, I got a whole bunch of them. All right, and what is the one I always go back to? I always go back to this one, and it's as you can see, I always go back to this one. It's just so much simpler and it's so much easier. And you see, I save recipes off of boxes. I mean, come on. And I print out. If I find a good recipe, I'll print it out, right? But this is zucchini. See, it's got zucchini bread and butter pickles. Look, it's right at it. Okay, so I got all my recipes here. See, got my chili, everything right here. So I got a sweet pickle relish. Tells you how to seed a cucumber. Look at there. Tells you exactly how to seed a cucumber. Very easy way to do it. Alright. This is the one I think I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with dill pickles because this is so much easier, and it says that the only one to use is a pickling cucumber. Okay, don't believe that. You can use any cucumber to make dill pickles. Okay, the problem is a pickling cucumber, and I'll just show you. A pickling cucumber has a tougher skin than a regular cucumber. Do you see that? It's got all these little bumps. It's just a thicker skin on a pickling cucumber than on a regular cucumber. Okay, and most pickling, this is actually overgrown. Okay, most pickling cucumbers are smaller, and you're supposed to pick them about like this. Okay, so they're just easier to put the whole cucumber in a jar. Okay, but you can use any cucumber for pickles. Okay, I just want you to know that you can do that. Okay, now let's go over this recipe. It calls for 4 pounds of pickling cucumbers. Like I said, you can use any cucumber, okay? And this is going to be 6 pints or 3 quarts. All right, you see that? And it tells you the processing time 10 minutes for pints, 15 minutes for your quarts, okay? It's 6 tablespoons of kosher or pickling salt, okay? Non-iodine salt, folks. Non-iodine. You don't want iodine salt. You need to make sure it's kosher or pickling salt. 3 cups of distilled white vinegar. There is a difference. Please make sure when you buy your white vinegar that it says distilled. Okay? So you want 3 cups distilled white vinegar, 3 cups of water, right? 1 tablespoon whole mixed pickling spices. Well, what does that mean? Okay, let's go over here. All right. This is pickling spice. All right. And as you can see, it has all kinds of spices in it. And if you look on the back, it's got cinnamon, allspice, mustard seed, coriander. It's got it all in here, okay? You can do the same thing as this yourself, okay? It's just easier to buy it already made up, okay? So it's already made up, ready to go, all right? Back to this, okay? 18 black peppercorns. Well, what the hell is a peppercorn? All right, back over to the spices. This is peppercorn. Okay? You see how that looks? That's peppercorn. And as you can tell, I like McCormick. Okay? I love McCormick. That's just my preferred spice is McCormick. Okay? So 18 black peppercorns, 3 tablespoons of dill seed. Well, where do you get dill seed? Well, that's another spice, okay? That is another spice. And here we go. Dill seed. All right? It's going to say dill seed right on it, all right? There's your dill seed. Okay. Right? And fresh dill springs. Now, I don't have any dill springs, and what dill springs is the top of your dill plant. Okay? So, I don't grow dill. I don't know anybody that does grow dill, but it's optional. Okay? So, the very first thing, which is what I'm doing right there, is to wash your cucumbers, right? You can leave them whole if they're smaller than 4 inches, right? For larger cucumbers, cut them into slices or lengthwise in halves or quarters, okay? I cut them into slices maybe about that thick, okay? Now, it says prepare your canning jars and 2-piece caps. That's your lids and your screw bands. Okay, you're going to sterilize your canning jars, and you're going to heat your lids in a small pan. You don't want to boil the water. You just want to get the water hot, but you don't want to boil it because then you boil the rubber off your lids, and you don't want to do that, okay? So you need to sterilize your canning jars. Now, the quickest way to sterilize your canning jars is that bad boy right there. Okay? Your dishwasher has on it, look at that, sanitize. Do you see that? Sanitize. Okay? Now, you put it through a high temp wash and sanitize it. Boom. Your canning jars are sterilized. Don't make it too complicated, folks, okay? And you want to keep your jars and your lids hot, and the best way to do that is keep your jars in your dishwasher, okay? And do your jars after you've got all your cucumbers all cut up and everything, okay? Before you start combining your salt and water and everything, all right? So I'm still washing mine. So you're not going to see that part of it, but I'm going to try and walk you through this anyway. Okay? Now you're going to take your salt, water, and vinegar, and you're going to combine them. I use a 4-quart saucepan, and you're going to bring it to a boil, and stirring occasionally. Now this says to dissolve the sugar. There is no sugar here. Okay? See, this is a boo-boo right here. Alright? That's a boo-boo in the book. Don't worry about it, because see, there is no sugar in this recipe. But you want to dissolve everything, so don't even worry about where it says the sugar. Don't take that out, okay? And you want to keep the liquid hot over medium heat. Now, once you get your water, vinegar, and salt to a boil, you want to keep it at a slow boil. You don't want a rapid boil. You want it at a slow boil, okay? And then you're going to take out your hot jars out of your dishwasher, and you're going to pack your cucumbers into your jars. Then you're going to pour that liquid into your jars. Now, I highly, highly, highly recommend that when you do this, you use one of these. Okay? You can get one of these at any Dollar General store. You need to use one of these. This helps keep the tops of your jars clean. So you need one of these, okay? And as you can see, I know right where it's at, so I can get to it quick if I need it. Alright? And I would highly recommend to take the liquid out of your saucepan, that you use a plastic funnel with a plastic measuring cup pitcher. Okay, you see that little lip that's on there? I use this all the time. I love this little thing. Because you want to try and keep the lip of your jars as clean as possible. Even though you're going to sanitize it and clean it before you put the lid on, you still want to try and keep where the rings screw down. You're trying to keep that completely clean, because you don't want to get any kind of food. Here, let me show you. Okay, you don't want any food around this rim right here where the ring is going to go, and you don't want it on top. Okay, you want to make sure that this is completely sterilized, is completely clean, and you want to make sure it's been, you don't touch the inside of the jar as you load the jar up. Okay, you want this to be as sanitized as you can get it. All right, and the reason for that is because you don't want botulism in the jar. Okay, now you're going to take, to each pint jar, you're going to add half a teaspoon of pickling spices, 3 peppercorns, and 1.5 teaspoons of dill seed. Okay, to each quart jar, add 1 teaspoon of pickling spices, 6 peppercorns, and 1 tablespoon of dill seed. If you're using fresh dill, add a sprig or two to each pint or quart jar in between the inside edge of the jar and the cucumbers. So what they mean by that is where the cucumbers are inside the jar, you want it between the cucumber and the outside edge of the jar. Okay? Now you're going to take that fluid that you just cooked up in your 3/4 quart saucepan, and you're going to pour that over top of your cucumbers, and you're going to leave a 1/4 inch of head space. Well, what is head space? Okay, let's go back to the jar. All right. Head space is, you see this little lip right there? On almost every jar, you're going to have a lip like that. You do not want the product to go past that lip, because that empty space right there is what they're calling headspace. Okay? So that's the headspace. Alright? Now, you're going to put your lids on. Now you want to make sure your cucumbers are completely submerged in the fluid. You don't want any of it sticking up out of the liquid. So if that means you got to reach in there and pull a couple cucumbers out, then so be it, okay? But you want to make sure they don't protrude from the jar and they're not above the liquid, okay? And that's because the lids won't seal. And it says that right here, because the lids may not properly seal. Okay? So you're going to take and release any air bubbles. Now it says with a non-reactive tool. Well, that means just a plastic spoon. Or you can get the little fancy cannon set that they sell. They sell a little cannon set that you can buy. And it has like a stick in there. And it is a plastic stick, and you just take it and shove it down around on the inside of the jar, and you tap it around to make sure you get all the air bubbles out, okay? Now, you're going to wipe the jar rims, okay? And you're going to wipe the jar rims with either a wet cloth, okay, sterilized cloth, or I like to use Lysol wipes. Okay, I use Lysol wipes and then dry it off with a napkin or paper towel if it's too wet. But I just happen to like the Lysol wipes. I think they're a lot easier to use than trying to, oh, did I wipe it enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Lysol wipes, it breaks everything down, takes it off real easy, okay? Then you're going to put your lid on top of the jar and then finger tight. Now, finger tight means you're not going to sit there and hold on to the jar with both hands and tighten it down. What you're going to do is you're just going to have your fingers above the jar like this, and you're going to screw it down until it gets slightly snug. And then stop. Okay? Don't worry about it. Just stop. Okay? Trust me on this one. Alright? Now you're going to take your jars and you're going to put them in your canner. Now you should already have your canner. You see here, I got all this stuff set here, ready to go. Alright? Now, your canner will come with this cool little rack here. Alright? I suggest that you put your jars on top of the water in this rack. Now remember, you're putting in hot liquid into these jars, so you do not want cold water in this canner. If you do, you're going to bust all your jars, and you don't want to have that problem, okay? I learned this from the hard way, okay? So you want hot water in your canner, okay? So get your water in your canner to a slow boil. Means you're just starting to see bubbles, and then you're going to put your jars in, okay? Because remember, you got hot jars now. You want to put them in hot water, okay? Now, when you put this rack down, which all it does is you just take it off like that on either side, and you just lower it down. Be careful when you do this, please. You don't want to burn yourself, okay? I recommend that you use your little oven mitts just to be on the safe side, okay? Because you don't want to burn yourself, all right? So you're going to put your canning jars down in the water, and you should have about this much water above your jars. Then you're going to bring this to what we call a rapid boil. That means it is really going, okay? And you're going to process those jars in that rapid boil like that for, let's go back here, right? And it tells you 4 pints, 10 minutes, for quarts, 15 minutes. Now, if you got a tall enough pot to do half gallons, the half gallons is 2 quarts. So for the half gallons, I would recommend 25 to 30 minutes. I would err on the safe side more towards 30 minutes, okay? Now, once you've processed them for that amount, then you're going to remove the jars with a jar lifter. Now, what is a jar lifter? Okay, hang on. Hang on. That's a jar lifter. See that? And this is a handy dandy 6-piece canning set. And that's what comes in it. Okay? That is the little plastic thing that has a magnet on the end that you can lift your lids out. That's the little plastic spoon I was telling you about. See? This is so you can grip your handles. Okay? And you've got several different things here. You can use this for a lifter. You can use that one. Anyway, that's the jar lifter right there. And that's how you use it, okay? I can't tell you how many times I used it with the rollers on the top on the jar. Because, yeah, no one told me. No one told me. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't specify here. Hey, it worked, right? So you ain't got to be perfect at this, okay? You're going to place them on a clean kitchen towel away from drafts, okay? What I do is I put them on my little TV tray here beside the refrigerator or beside the sink, and I let them sit overnight, normally till the next morning. And once that's done, now when you take these out, now it's something they don't tell you here. When you take these jars out of the canner, you want to tighten down the rings just a little bit. And the reason you're doing that is you're sealing it. So you're putting pressure on that rubber seal that's partially melted now to seal onto the top of the jar, okay? Now, it says to put it on the pantry shelf for at least 2 weeks. You can actually eat this right away if you wanted to, as soon as it's cool. I recommend to get the full dillness all the way through the cucumbers. I recommend a month. You know, cook them up, let them sit for a month before you take them out. But you're going to test the seals. Now, how you test the seals, and this is a good way. I'm going to show you, okay? This is a lid, right? And this is a used lid, obviously. And you see that rubber seal? Here's my jar. Put the seal on. I put the lid on the jar like that, right? Then I'm going to take my ring. And I got my ring on there. Now, imagine that this has got your cucumbers in it, or your pickles in it. And now, this has been sitting on your towel on top of your thing. And then you come along and you do this. Do you see and hear that? That is not sealed. That is the easiest way to test to see if it's sealed. Now, the other way you can do it is you can take the ring off. You can take the ring off, and if you lightly pull up on that lid and it comes off, or it starts to lift, that is not sealed. So what you want to do then, it doesn't mean it's bad. it means that you need to put that in your refrigerator and use them up within 2 months. So, I mean, now you can vary this. It says for kosher style, add 2 cloves of peeled half garlic to each jar. This makes 11 calories. Okay, this gives you right here everything that's in it. It's got a 1,308 milligrams of sodium. It's got 2 grams of carbohydrates and 1 gram of protein. Now, for those of you who are watching your calories and your protein, hey, here you go. This is why I love this book, is it tells you everything that's in the recipe, what the calories are, the carbohydrates, and everything else, okay? So that's what I'm going to be doing. That's the pickles I'm going to be making. And it's really simple to do, and I thought I'd just share that with you. Yes, there are steps, okay? But if you follow the steps, real easy to do, okay? Don't be scared of this, okay? Everybody was doing this before we even knew what canning was, okay? So don't be scared of this. You can vary this a little bit. Stick with this recipe until you're sure what you're doing. And then you can start adding stuff like cinnamon and garlic and turmeric and stuff like that to it to vary the taste. Okay? All right. That's it. That's all I got for you. Bicycle.